So what happened here?
We had been notified that there was a group gathering at the Walmart in Peoria. They had requested assistance from East Peoria. Our officers did respond over to the Peoria Walmart. At that point in time, we were notified about the potential for a group to gather here at the Walmart in East Peoria. We had officers deployed at the Walmart here. Crowd continued to gather. More officers were on scene. Most of the time it was a peaceful protest. They were still yelling and doing some things, but there were bricks thrown at officers. When the bricks were thrown at officers, officers did deploy pepper balls to move the crowds back, but things were thrown at us twice on those occasions, and on those occasions when they did throw projectiles at the officers on the line, pepper balls were deployed to move the crowd back. At that point in time, there had been no arrests. We did respond over to Lowe's. A fire had been set on the side of the building, East Peoria Fire, and officers responded over there. We're still checking to see if there's any damage to the building at this point in time.
So basically, as of right now, I was here for a good chunk of the of the thing, and I happened to see some of those pepper balls that were shot out, but there wasn't anything other than that. There was no confrontation.
No, whenever the protesters were here, there was no problem with that. We did not try and engage with any of the protesters. Pepper balls were deployed into the ground in front of them.
Speak up.
In front of the crowds, they were not deployed into the crowds. We were trying to make sure that, like I said, it was as peaceful as could. People have the right to protest, but when you start to have projectiles thrown at officers who are on the scene, then we do have to have some dispersal of the crowd.
So what? So it was bricks.
There were bricks thrown at the officers. Yes.
Okay, and was anybody hurt?
At this point in time, we have no officers that have been hurt. We've not been advised if anybody in the crowd was injured. It does not appear to be anybody in the crowd is injured.
Now, let's talk about the Walmart. Was the Walmart open when the people showed up here? How did you
because of the incident that was occurring over in Peoria, the Walmart in East Peoria then had closed prior to that, but we still had officers deployed here because we knew crowds were coming over.
Is there any concern that this crowd may have gone somewhere else tonight?
That's part of the thing is they could go to many different places. We have officers were deployed. We'd had information potentially that they were going to go to the police station. We had officers deployed at the police station. Like I said, there are officers deployed at Target just to make sure if there were any crowds there. We have officers over at the Embassy Suites just to make sure if crowds did occur. So we have officers deployed throughout the city in case any crowds did come over. We've had assistance from Tazewell County Sheriff's Office, Creve Coeur Police Department, Pekin, Peoria PD did also respond over here, Fond du Lac Park District. So we had numerous officers from all around the area that responded to assist us.
About how many of officers were here?
I don't have an accurate count.
Okay. Is it this? We have had many things happen over like the last 20 years that I have been here. This is the first time I've ever seen anything close to this. What do you think? What do you think happened here?
In my career, I've been at numerous protests that have happened throughout the city, and once again, the public does have the right to protest. Peaceful protests are always going to do that. We will never inhibit any peaceful protests, except for when, like I said, when there start to be projectiles thrown at officers is when we will make sure that if we have to disperse the crowd.
Now, I am also saw that there was a few humorous moments. The man who was on the hoverboard crashed into you.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to be? You've got to be serious. You have to protect. But at the same time, though, it was just a very weird night.
One of these is I've been doing this a long time. This is one of the things is it's one of those where you're able to deal with the situation. The gentleman that came forward and his hoverboard crashed into me basically was not doing anything. I just made sure his hoverboard didn't crash into anybody else.
So earlier today, I was at the We Matter March, and it was a very different protest than it was today. When you guys got wind that was going on, did it ever occur to you that it could turn into a violent event, such as tonight?
We always have to prepare for events. We were aware of the protests that went over in Peoria. We did make sure our officers were aware of the event. As we said one of the times, until we were dispatched for mutual aid over to Peoria, and then, like I said, we knew the extent of how things could turn into something a little bit more.
Chief, question: this cart line, and they're all scattered out here now, but the crowd formed a cart line. Do you have any clue why they did that? It just seemed kind of peculiar.
They made the cart line. We had absolutely no problem with it as long as they were not using the carts to be pushed into us. We had absolutely no problem with them using the carts for making that line.
Is Walmart going to be closed tomorrow?
That is going to be up to Walmart's decision. Like I said, they closed on their own. We just advised them of what had gone on earlier over in Peoria. They were aware of it. They made their choice to close. It was not us who closed them. So I have to go check on some things. You all know me, so I've got to be moving and check throughout the city. Okay.
Can you
All right,
confirm
Steve.
a fire over at Coles? Yes or no?
At Kohl's, no. There was a small fire on the side of Lowe's.
Okay.
But East Peoria Fire did respond to that. We did have officers go over to assist.
Was that in direct response to everything happening?
That occurred when people did leave from here. How that fire started, I don't have an answer for you.
Sir,
Okay?
one last question, if you don't mind. Are you aware of any other protests or riots at this time?
Right now, I'm not aware of anything going on in the city of East Peoria. I'm not aware of anything that may or may not be going on over in Peoria. But right now, currently, we have officers throughout the city, and they are not requesting any assistance.
Has anyone been injured?
Not that I'm aware of. So, all right, thank you.